All right, so we're working on the Buzzard here at North American. They service all the heavy equipment and the trucks for us. We're here in Danbury, Connecticut, and we're going to start putting it back together. Do a little walk around so you see what we've already done. Previously, you know, we took the axles apart, and just so you know, the way these axles are made is that center section, all right, which runs from over here by this shock over to roughly over here by this shock is by Clark. And then it goes into a center housing, which is right here. That's where the universal is. And then out to these planetaries on the outside, which are by Gillian. And you can see that we've gone ahead and put new grease fittings in here. You'll notice this cable that's on over here that supports it, because the weakest point in this whole setup is right here where these new bolts are. As the weight of the truck comes down and the wheel on this side comes up, that's where all the stress is. And if you're going to have a leak or any problem, that's where it usually is. And if you notice that cable that runs around there holds that wheel if any of these bolts should shear off. Now you can see we put all new bolts in here. We've put all new bolts on the outside of the planetaries. We've greased them and filled them. There's the fill point there. Go around to the front of the truck here and you can see that this one's been done already. This one over here has been done already in left front, and we're going to go ahead and finish up today putting the axle in. Now, the way this setup goes, the inner axle rather here goes into the differential. There's an internal universal joint, and you'll see how all that goes together. There's a sun gear, which sets in the center of the planetary, and the planetary runs around the ring. So as we go through this, we'll show you how it's all done. Ed here is going to do that project for us. All right. I think I'm going to do is I'll move around to the other side of the truck. We'll get a better view of what's going on. You know, as I said before, maintenance, get it done ahead of time, anticipate any problems that might occur, and be way ahead of the game. Now, I think previously I thought those Clark axles were 25 ton, but after doing some service research, we find that they're actually a 20 ton rating on them. Now that axle is going to slide in there just like a standard rear end on any kind of car. The spline will slide in. Ed's going to grease it up real good. And it's interesting also because that housing in the center underneath the orange plate where that universal sits is actually a dry mount. In fact, we had to replace almost all the seals on the inside of the housing that seals off the fluids in the rear end versus the fluids. I'm trying to get a picture in here so you can see what Ed's doing. He's just, there you go. There's a guy who knows what he's doing. You can't do it if you can't see it, right, Ed?
That's it.
So, and that's a really strong lube. It almost has an adhesion factor to it. What were you saying, Ed? So it really sticks tight.
Yes, very tight, very sticky.
Very sticky to grab onto that. Now, in the top, just above that, below that orange plate, is a ball joint, if you will, that allows that unit to turn, and there's another ball joint just below it. Now here's where it gets tricky. It's going to fit these balls in there, these I guess, what do you think, they're stainless steel, Ed? They must be, huh?
Yeah, I think they're just hardened steel.
Hardened steel?
Yeah.
Okay. Goop it up good. You know, it was interesting when we took this thing apart, opened it up, and I showed that to you in a previous video that we did. There was a tremendous amount of lubricant in there, probably a combination of grease and rear axle housing fluids, and they were well lubricated, which is a really good sign. You can't put enough lubrication into these things. You can see they're on the floor behind Ed next to that brake cleaner. All those brand new, what are those, grade 8 bolts?
Yes.
Grade 8 bolts that he's going to put in. You know, Ed, the name of this truck is the Blue Buzzard. Couldn't get blue grease instead of green?
Yeah.
Don't make me laugh because the camera shakes all over the place when I laugh. All right, here comes the tough part. Here comes the tough part. But we've done.
I gotta get a jack stand.
Okay, we've done 3 of these already. 2 front ones and the right rear. So Ed's done this a couple of times.